Hi everyone, Lucas from iExplore here. These days we are of course all stuck inside, so what better time than now than to work a little bit on your photo organization. So to that end, today I have 3 tips for you guys on how to improve your organization system. Just before we jump into that, I want to announce that we are now on Patreon, so if you love what we put out, if you love our content on YouTube, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Alright? Okay, let's jump into it. The software that I use for organizing my photos is Adobe Bridge, which I believe is free from Adobe, so you don't have to go and buy the Creative Cloud, or if you're not into that. Although I do, full disclosure, I do use the Creative Cloud, and I like Photoshop a lot for editing my photos. So, but nonetheless, just for organizing, you can use Adobe Bridge for free. So, what are we going to do here? Well, the reason, actually, like the biggest reason I like Adobe Bridge is because of its photo renaming function. Okay, I think this is really useful for organizing your photos. And why do I think that's important? Because when you normally take pictures, most cameras just give the file names these sequential numbers. So they usually start with some sort of prefix. Often I notice it's DSC. I don't even know what that stands for, but it's always there. And then they put a number, 0001. And it just keeps going, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Eventually it gets to 9,999, and then it rolls over back to 1. When you have duplicate file names, it starts to get a little bit messy. Of course, you can put them in separate folders, but nonetheless, having multiple photos that have the same number can become a problem. And it'll be clear why this is a problem when we get to the final tip. So I think it's important to rename them. And in Bridge, to do that, you just select them. So I hit Control A, okay, to select all. Right click, click on Batch Rename, and then I get this little menu here where I can choose things. So I usually start with a bit of text, and I just keep that DSC, which in retrospect, I don't know why I kept it. I didn't know any better. My little second little sub tip here is, if you're gonna have any text in your name, like in your file names like this, put your initials or something. For me it's LKP. I would have much rather have LKP because it's more identifiable with me. You could put your name, anything like this. I think it's a little extra little bonus. But I keep the DSC because that's just what I've been doing for years, and I want them all to be the same. And it doesn't really matter anyway. The important part that I'm getting to is the next part here. So by clicking these little pluses and minuses, you can add things or take things away here, right? So I can add a little bit. And you're going to add something and then choose date and time. All right, date, time, and then date created. And then I always use year, year, month, month, day, day. You could use a 4-digit year if you want, but I think 2 digits for each is enough. Then I add an underscore. So again, I add a little bit of, I add a section here, and then I add an underscore. And then I do another date, time, date created, and this time it's hours, minutes, and seconds. Okay, and the result is previewed down here. So you see the current name is 0001, and now it's 2020, so 20, March 26th, 6:53 p.m. and 48 seconds, which means that pretty much all the photos are going to have unique file times because they're mostly taken at different times. Okay, so I'm going to hit rename, and all of the files rename, as you can see. There's one little small problem, which is not a big deal. You can actually ignore this, but I like to fix this because it just annoys me. I'm weird like that. Is that if you see here, this one is 185355, and this one's the same number because these were taken in the same second. Must have hit the trigger real quick there. And Bridge solves that problem. You can't have the same names. Solves that problem by adding a 1 in parentheses, and it'll just keep going 1, 2, 3, and so on if there's more than one of these. I just don't like that because, I don't know, it breaks the pattern. I keep my underscores, and then the one that didn't have anything, it's the first file in the set is a 0. So 0, 1, and so on. And I just manually go through and change these. I wish they would add this as an option in that menu, but maybe they will someday. In any case, you can ignore that. If that's tedious for you, ignore that, because it doesn't matter. They'll still have unique file names, which is the main goal here. Okay, so that's it for tip number 1. Get your files renamed so that they have unique file names. Now, let's go on to the second tip, which is when you are saving your files after you've edited. So I'm going to open this in Camera Raw, and normally I would do all my edits here, but for today that doesn't matter. I'm just going to click Save Image in the bottom left here. I'm going to clear this out to make it fresh for you guys. And what do we have? So we have the document name here for the name, which is just our nice ID number that we just created from the date and the time. And then here, of course, I'm going to put a title. Most people title their images. But the important thing, this is the tip, is I put some tags right in the file name, which is going to make it easier to search for these things, which is tip number 3. So what are we going to tag this photo with? Well, it's a night photo, took it at night. It's photo, it has a reflection. I do a lot of reflections, so I like to label that in my images. It is a street photo, okay, quintessential kind of street photo. It's a candid moment in the streets. And I always put the place name, so in this case I'll put Yurakucho, which is the neighborhood where I took it. And you could be as specific or general as you want. When I travel, I'll often put the country name and the city name, and maybe even the neighborhood name, right? In Tokyo, I might do like the neighborhood and even the little sub-neighborhood, like a street or something, like in Shinjuku, I might also put Kabukicho. But in any case, whatever you want, but I highly recommend putting the location, as that often makes things easier to find. And then, in parentheses, I put a title. So I decided to title this in black sedan, because that's what the car is. And then I usually put a little suffix at the end that just tells me what software I used to edit this file, because I used to use different softwares. I used to use like Lightroom sometimes, I used to use Photoshop sometimes. Nikon has a software called Capture NX, I used to use that. So I kind of labeled it. These days I only really use Camera Raw, so this is pointless, but just a little secondary tip, you can put that in the file name too to help you remember. Okay, and that's it. And then normally you can see the new name is going to be this. It's going to be the ID number, the tags there, which I separate with periods. That's just me, doesn't matter. The title, and then that little label. And normally I would hit save, but I'm going to cancel for now because I've already saved this. I'm going to hit done here. And then that brings us to tip number 3, which is using search to quickly get to your images. Okay, so I'm going to open up my folder here that has all of my JPEGs that I've ever edited. It goes all the way back to 2010 when I started to get into photography more seriously. And there's like 30-something thousand JPEG files in here. And how do I quickly find some? Now, of course, there's stuff in folders, so I could just try to remember, okay, I put that photo was in that folder, and I go through the folders. So I do have them organized that way. But if I need to quickly find something, I just use the search right here in Windows. And on macOS, you can do the same. And you can see I already done this once. So Night Street Yurakucho is what I'm going to search for here. I'm going to click on that. You type that in. And all the photos that have those tags, you can see they're highlighted here in yellow, appear. And when I'll make them thumbnails here, you can see there they are. And of course, these are already the edited ones. I've done this previously. But you can see how quickly I can access photos if I just remember the tags. And tags can be used for other fun stuff too. For example, if I use colors sometimes. So if I put in red, look, a lot of red stuff appears, right? That's kind of cool. If I put in blue, I get blue stuff, okay? So just a fun way. You can also use colors, you can use locations, you can use anything you want to help you quickly sort through your photos. And you can see 456 blue photos here, right? If we go back to the Yurakucho street search that we had just now, street Yurakucho, then you see that slowly searches 102 items appear, right? So I still have to look through 102 photos to find what I'm looking for, but it's a lot less than 35,000 or whatever it is. Okay, and let's to kind of continue with this tip of using search to quickly get around through your photos. This is also where those unique ID numbers come in. So let's say from here, I want to go back to the raw file. So I want to go, from this JPEG and actually go look at the raw and maybe change some edits or whatever reason I might need that. Now I keep my raw files in a separate folder, so it might be kind of hard to quickly find them. But with the unique ID number, it's very easy. So all I have to do is select, let's just do that one, select the ID number. And I could search in here, I could use the Windows search, but for this I find this application works better. It's called Everything. I believe it used to be called Search Everything or Everything Search. And it's very fast at finding files on your computer. So I just paste that ID number in there. Instantly, all my files appear. And here you can see is the raw file for this JPEG. I double click on that. It opens up in Camera Raw. And there's my photo with all my edits. And I could change this and save it again if I need to re-export it for whatever reason. Now, there are some flaws to my system, I admit. For example, the RAWs don't have any tags, so I have to rely on edited JPEGs in order to use the tags to pull up the photos using search. And then, based on that, I can use that ID number to find the RAW file. But if there's a RAW file that I'd never edited, I never saved as a JPEG, it's going to be hard to find using my system. So that is admittedly one shortcoming. Also, you might be wondering, why don't you just use Lightroom to do this? And I haven't used Lightroom in a long time actually, so I'm not sure how, I'm sure it has similar, I know you can tag photos and things like this. The main issue I don't use Lightroom though, or the main reason I don't use Lightroom is because I don't want to be dependent on that application and that application's database. The beauty of what I have of my system is that, if I sync with Dropbox to my laptop, for example, everything's there. Now I know Lightroom can probably sync the database too, but nonetheless I feel like if once you're doing that, you're kind of locked into that system. And if I don't want to use Lightroom anymore for whatever reason, like here for example, I could stop using Adobe Camera Raw to edit my photos and it won't be an issue because my system is purely independent of any application outside of just the OS, Windows or OS or Mac OS or whatever. So that's why I prefer my system, although it is not perfect. And I hope these tips have helped you. So remember always, challenge your eye.